I talked about how the Warner Brother DC movies
Oh my God.
are good, and I didn't mean that.
I know. I know you say things just to
I know.
it's good.
But Suicide Squad I thought was fun.
Suicide Squad was good.
Right. Peacemaker. That show I thought was really funny.
I watched 2 or 3 episodes.
I watched the whole thing.
I thought it was. I didn't think it was that clever, and I didn't think it was that funny to me. But I kind of respected what they were doing. That it was different enough.
Oh, I thought it was pretty clever. Like all that, like Green Arrow, all that other stuff, that misses me. That's like teen stuff, right? But I thought Peacemaker was at least, kind of grown up and using.
Yes.
But also smart enough to be like, this is dumb. Like, what? Look at this cool dumb thing that we're gonna do. Let's do a dance, even though he's a guy that murders people with a gun in their face. Like, he's an anti-hero, and I thought it was a new way to sort of. What did Corey Feldman choreograph this?
Here's my issue, and this is when I first saw this, I thought, I know what they're trying to do, and it's not coming across well because there's a difference between trying to make something like this and have it be felt a certain way, and then they're just kind of going through the motions.
There's an eagle. That's cool. Oh, I started watching last night, The Batman, and it still stands up. Like, it's still dark. It's still gritty. He won't kill you, but he'll definitely put you in the hospital and put you in the insane asylum and then like beat you up again when you get out. And like, what is the point of Batman? It's just this never-ending cycle of fighting the same guys over and over, but he won't kill, and but he's hyper violent. Like, maybe I'm outgrowing Batman because like he finds these guys and he beats them all up, and why does he do that?
That's a good question to ask, and that's the struggle of an anti-hero, and doing it so well is what's the point? Because like you're saying, it's kind of a catch-22. You can catch the bad guy and you can beat him up and he'll be out. Batman, as smart as he is, and as much as he understands and knows and can commit himself to, knows that the criminals he's beating up, as big and small as they are, they'll be out on the street again.
Right, and in the silly Flash movie, when Wonder Woman is in the movie for no reason, the lasso of truth gets around Batman, and Batman's like, I could probably end way more crime by just donating all of my money. Why am I beating people up? And he's like, get this rope off of me. That kind of really hit something with me to where I kind of believe that about Batman, even though he's been my favorite superhero for so long, because his superpower is pre-planning and cleverness.
I hear what you're saying. I think the inherent thing about Batman and what like the Joker kind of brings out in comics and stuff is that he's ultimately a pretty selfish guy, because what he's doing is this never-ending loop of just kind of getting out his aggression and anger and hurt.
Right, and he's spending tons and tons of money, and he's practically creating half of the bad guys that he's fighting.
Right.
Because he creates the Joker, he creates the Riddler, he creates, by being this hyper-violent vigilante that represents justice but isn't just. And that being said, it's still my favorite guy, and Val Kilmer is still the best Batman.
All right, well, we're not going into that right now.
Best Batman.
The Batman does still hold up. I appreciated it when it came out. I wasn't a fan of the actor when this movie came out. I wasn't a fan of this alternate universe when the DCEU was still trying to make that a thing. So I wasn't appreciative of like what the studios were doing. I thought they were just going for money grabs, and like Joker was successful, but that was its own thing. There was a lot against this in my mind. We change as society changes. The stories must change and the actors must change too. So I didn't have a problem with Ben Affleck from the beginning as Batman. I didn't really have a problem with him. I was just wary of who the decision makers were and what they were making those decisions for. Was it for money, or was he really the best Batman that we could get for this kind of film? So overall, I think it's a great movie. I think the first 10 minutes or whatever is some of the strongest movie comic book hero stuff I've ever seen. It really drew me in. Impressive stuff, like Dark Knight kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I only made about halfway through it last night, but I also like the fact that this is separate from that Justice League thing, and that they're not afraid to just make, it's like, oh, I got a Batman over here, and I got Batman over here, and like, this is just this idea of a story we had about the Joker. It doesn't have to have Aquaman in it. It doesn't have, they just made a Joker movie and it was great. DC is making some better moves than Marvel. Instead of just making like this secret invasion that everyone hated, and it was this series on Disney or whatever, and like I got through the first 10 minutes of it and I was like, oh, I can see why everyone hates this. This is garbage.
DC is hitting more, but they're also taking they're more desperate. They were more desperate to make hits. So they were like, yeah, okay, let's do another Batman. I don't care. Oh, Joker? Joaquin Phoenix? Sure, yeah. And it just happened to be really good.
I wonder if DC let the Joker and the Batman kind of go off to the side because they're like, yeah, we don't know if this is going to do it. We won't try to control it too much, and that's why it did great.
But they were talking about developing the concept of Elseworlds, which in comic books is also called a one-shot, which means it's a comic book that's way thicker. It's like maybe 5 or 6 comic books in one, but it's one story and it's an Elseworld. That means this is before like multi-dimensional and all that verse stuff. Just means it's a story. It doesn't plug in anywhere. It only exists within the borders of this comic book. So wrap your head around that. Superman's evil from Russia now. And there's a story in there, a good story. The reason why they're making it is because it's such a good idea with characters that we're used to in way different situations that don't have to make sense.
Yeah, I think they should do more of that. The What If series from Marvel, they did a little TV thing, but it was a comic book that I've been getting back issues of back to the 60s, back to the 70s.
Yep.
And it was like, what if, Thor was Captain America, or, just like an interesting idea that you could explore for one story, and then it didn't have to turn into Endgame and Infinity War and all. It was just like a cool story. Like the fact that they had Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad and everyone's just fine with it. Like they're really trying to throw stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
And if something like Batman, which is more cerebral and slower, and Joker, which is extremely cerebral and slower, is working, and that's a niche that you can carve out with extremely talented people doing it, why not take advantage of that and let that just grow and die and figure something else out rather than chasing the Marvel verse, which clearly is falling apart. It's not sustainable. None of this is sustainable. It's
all burned out.
Yeah.
On comic book movies. It needs to be something different. Not why is Wonder Woman here? Why is the Batman here? Like I thought it was about the Flash, and the third of the movie is about Batman, which was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they could have just clearly just done a Michael Keaton thing.
That would have been incredible.
It would have been great.
Everyone would have loved that way more.
Yeah, way more forgiving because the previous stuff was just so amazing, and we trust, especially when they handled it like they handled Michael Keaton in that Batman.
Yeah.
They handled it as though, it's a self-contained story. It's like in Elseworld.
Yeah.
What can we do with this guy that hasn't been done but still remains in character, et cetera, et cetera? And we get the best of everything because it doesn't have to. It's not like a sitcom where you have to go back to the beginning at the end of the episode. Like everything's the same again.
That's why I want the Supergirl was tortured by Russians and now wants revenge on humanity movie.
Sounds great.
I want that so bad.
Sounds great.
What did Bill say? Buffy the
Bad Guy Slayer.
Bad Guy Slayer. Yeah, that's the movie I want.
Yeah.
Make that one next.